Hi, Bora here. Today we're taking a look at Hail to the Rainbow, a first-person story-driven horror set in a post-apocalyptic cyberpunk Russia. You play as Ignat, a lonely survivor picking through the ruins of a collapsed world, following a mysterious email that drags him into something much bigger. It promises deep atmosphere, intense encounters, and a very moody, Soviet-tinted dystopia. But does the gameplay actually keep up with the vibe? Let's see if it's worth your time or your money. Hail to the Rainbow immediately feels like a slow-burn narrative horror, not a pure shooter. You move through decayed cities, industrial corridors, and frozen streets while the world feels heavy, cold, and hostile. The presentation is strong, lighting, sound design, and the soundtrack by Nobody's Nail Machine do a lot of the emotional lifting. It nails the atmosphere and mood, but sometimes the pacing drags and the walking loop can feel a bit drawn out. We'll get into that. Overall, it's more about tension and immersion than constant action. Hail to the Rainbow is a first-person adventure with horror and shooter elements. Most of the time you're exploring environments, reading electronic records, searching rooms, and solving small technical puzzles to open paths and progress. Every now and then the game flips into combat, you grab a weapon, manage ammo, and deal with enemies in tense, short encounters. Compared to other narrative FPS games, this one leans harder into atmosphere and story than deep gunplay or complex systems. Combat is there, but it's simple and sometimes clunky. If you're expecting a full action shooter, you'll be surprised by how much of it is exploring, reading, and soaking in the mood. One thing I really liked is the world building. The post-apocalyptic Russian cyberpunk setting feels distinct, with a mix of ruined infrastructure, neon tech, and small human details in notes and terminals. The emotional angle around Ignat, his past, his loss, his inner monologues, gives the story more weight than a typical indie horror. The atmosphere is a big win. Sound design, music, and visuals work together to keep you slightly on edge almost all the time. But there are issues. Some puzzles and objectives aren't very clearly communicated, so you can end up wandering in circles or rechecking the same rooms. A few sections start to feel tedious rather than tense, especially when you're stuck on a small logic or find the thing. Combat is probably the weakest part. It works, but it's stiff, basic, and doesn't always match how good the world looks and sounds. Controls and UI can also feel a bit clunky, pulling you out of the immersion during more intense moments. The good news is that, despite these flaws, the overall experience has been hitting very positive reviews on Steam, mainly thanks to its atmosphere and story. If you enjoy narrative-driven first-person games like indie walking sims with a horror edge, where mood, setting, and story matter more than mechanics, Hail to the Rainbow is aimed directly at you. It's for players who like exploring detailed environments, reading logs, piecing together world lore, and taking their time in slow, tense spaces. You also need to be okay with some jank, a bit of clumsy combat, some opaque puzzles, and moments where the world looks great but doesn't have much to do in it. If you prefer tight shooting, constant action, or very polished controls, this probably won't be your game. And if you really dislike reading in games, or you want branching choices and heavy interactivity, you may find it too linear and passive. Final takeaway, Hail to the Rainbow is a moody, post-apocalyptic cyberpunk horror adventure with strong atmosphere and a heartfelt story, held back by clunky mechanics and uneven pacing. Personal verdict. For me, it's worth playing if you're here for the world, the tone, and the narrative, not if you're chasing sharp gunplay or deep systems. Conditional recommendation. If you love atmospheric indie horror with a focus on story and you can forgive some rough edges, it's definitely worth giving a shot. If this helped you figure it out, don't disappear. I'd love to see you in the next one.